Okay, hello. Welcome to the Cask of the Amontillado. I'm going to share with you a screen, and we'll start reading. Okay, sorry, it takes a minute to get it all set up. So we have to read the Cask of the Amontillado. It's on the in the curriculum. It's in Springboard, so I might also refer you into Springboard. But right now, I just want to start reading the story because we have to get through the story, and I don't want to make any lesson longer than it has to be because I know you guys are roaring for vacation. So here we go. This is, without further ado, the reading of the Cask of the Amontillado.
The 1,000 injuries of Fortunato I had borne as best I could. But when he ventured upon insult, I vowed revenge. You, who so well know the nature of my soul, will not suppose, however, that I gave utterance to a threat. At length I would be avenged. This was a point definitively settled. But the very definitiveness with which it was resolved precluded the idea of risk. I must not only punish, but punish with impunity. A wrong is unredressed when retribution overtakes its redresser. It is equally unredressed when the avenger fails to make himself felt as such to him who has done the wrong. It must be understood that
All right, I know that was just the first paragraph, but this story begs analysis. So I have to, I've got to share with you another screen. And this is the screen with genius, if there's a God, this is. Nope, that's the same screen. Okay, such is life. Okay, so this is going to be painful. I knew I should have guessed it would be very painful. Okay. Okay, so this is what they call genius, and what it is it's the story with annotations, and so we only read the first paragraph. I know that, but I have to get right into discussing all the different literary components of the Cask of the Amontillado. So this book first appeared in 1946. It became a classic. I don't know if you know this, but Edgar Allan Poe wrote many horror stories. He was a master of the short story writing, and he was known as a hatchet man. He would actually, as a literary critic, slash other writers' writings to pieces, saying they were lousy. So he was. He wrote The Philosophy of Composition, which is a treatise on how to write well. So he was actually a very well-respected, excellent writer. As a matter of fact, I always say if you want to increase your SAT scores, read the short stories of Edgar Allan Poe, which are very readable. They're excellent. So anyway, there's a whole thing here about the fact that the story's in first person, but I'm just going to read the annotations that are made here because mostly these are really insightful and perfect and right on, right on. The Cask of Amontillado appeared in 1946. It's a classic example of unreliable narrator. So it's told in first person, and the person who's telling the story is kind of nuts. So Montessor, the man who is telling the story, he's reciting, I mean, we're hearing him tell us something that happened to him, right? And he's unreliable. You know right from the very beginning that he's a nut. And Montessor tells a story of revenge smugly, and that's the tone, like he's smug the whole time. 1,000 injuries I had borne from Fortunato, and Fortunato's supposed to be a good friend of his, but he goes, that friend of mine, my supposed friend, has insulted me beyond belief 1,000 times. So he's got this smug tone, and he invites you, the reader, to applaud his cleverness. He goes, and wait till I tell you my story and what I did. You won't believe how intelligent and wonderful I was at a master of murder. He's like the narrator of The Telltale Heart, if you've read The Telltale Heart. And by telling the story from Montesquieu's point of view, Poe forces a reader to look into the inner workings of the murderer's mind. So we're having a murderer tell us about the killing he did and how he did it and why he did it, right? And so here it is. The tale has remained one of Poe's most widely read, particularly so in recent years due to the inclusion of the U.S. Common Core. Blech, that's junk. We don't hear about Common Core. Okay, so it meets standards, I guess. Okay, so down below here, this is all still just about the first paragraph. Exposition is the introduction to characters, setting, and conflict. In class, I showed you the plot outline. And in the plot outline, that's the very first thing that happens is exposition. The root word there is expose. So we get exposed to characters, conflict, and setting. So how does this first paragraph give us the introduction to characters, conflict, and setting? And I'm going to tell you in one moment. So we've got the introduction to the characters, setting, and conflict. Edgar Allan Poe is a master of the art of the short story. In the Cask of the Amontillado, the first 4 paragraphs provide background information about the 2 main characters, Montesor and Fortunato. Those are their names, all right? So Montesor is a very old family name, and he has a good friend whose name is Fortunato. And Fortunato is supposedly his friend, but he wants revenge on Fortunato for the 1,000 injuries he's suffered by slights, little slights of comments and little slights of, when they're with other people, things that Fortunato does to embarrass him. And give insight into the larger conflict of the short story. So right now, we want to know what is the problem in this short story and how are we getting introduced to it. The reader learns that Montesor seeks revenge against Fortunato in the first paragraph. So in the very beginning of this short story, we learn that Montesor feels like he's been insulted by his friend Fortunato, and now he's like plotting revenge, right? The reader learns that Montesor seeks revenge against Fortunato. With the introduction of suspense, irony, and foreshadowing in the first paragraph, the dark and scary mood of the story is established. So, Poe was famous for saying that a good horror story needs a sustained tone of suspense. So, you're sitting in your chair, and then as you're reading it, and you're moving forward till you're at the edge of your seat by the end of the story, because the suspense builds up throughout the story. So, very beginning of the story, we have an introduction to suspense. And suspense is a number of different things. It is mood. There's got to be a frightening mood in order to build suspense. If you're not scared, then it's not a good horror story. And suspense is like a necessary element. And suspense also goes hand in hand with foreshadowing, because they give you hints of horrible things that are going to happen. So suspense is a big ticket item, and it requires like a lot of different things simmering in the short story as you're reading it. And Edgar Allan Poe is a master of this. So we have an introduction to suspense, we have irony and foreshadowing in the first paragraph, where the dark, scary mood of the story is established. Poe created suspense in the story to engage a reader and leave them wanting to know more of Montesor's plan to get revenge on his friend. So we will find out right away that Montesor, not only does he have a, up above, they said that he had a kind of a presumptuous tone about him, that he acts like he is landed gentry. We learn this through the story, because unless you have a catacomb and crypts and wine cellar in your house, we got to assume that that's something that belongs to a privileged group. And so you don't want to see my basement. Anyway, it's frightening. Actually, it would be a great horror story but it's not like this. So anyway, he's a very wealthy man who has a wine cellar, and he actually has a crypt in his basement where his ancestors are buried, yada, yada. So this is a very strange story. Poe created suspense in the story to engage the readers and leave them wanting more. to know more about Montezor's plan for revenge. The aristocratic title privileges of Montezor and the type of wine mentioned, the Amontillado, indicate the story takes place in Spain. We will soon learn that he is a family crip, a wine cellar, and a family crest. All this indicate that he's of noble birth, and the name Montezor has lineage. In other words, he has great, great, great ancestors, and they're buried in the crypts in his catacomb underneath the house. So very spooky stuff. As a matter of fact, I got to show you a little clip from Tales to the Crypt. It kind of gives you an indication what a crypt looks like. I'll put that in right after we finish this introduction. In Cask of the Amontillado, Edgar Allan Poe uses foreshadowing, dramatic irony, and verbal irony to show Fortunato's misfortunes will eventually lead to his death. So we have irony and foreshadowing, and these literary elements are, important. They're literary devices in literature. So I gave you a list of literary devices at some point. It might actually be in that package I just gave you for the short story. Anyway, and these are literary devices we're supposed to know. Foreshadowing, irony, dramatic ironing, foreshadowing. Well, okay, so these are literary devices. There's another one here, but I'll continue. Foreshadowing, literary devices used in literature. In Italian, pardon me, it should be, yeah, the word fortunato means fortunate. Something that he is not in the end of the story. In the Cask of Amontillado, Edgar Allan Poe uses foreshadowing, dramatic irony, and verbal irony to show Fortunato's misfortunes, which eventually lead to his death. So what it is that the name Fortunato in and of itself is ironic because the guy is not going to be fortunate. He's not fortunate having a friend in Montezor. In the Cask of the Amontillado, Edgar Allan Poe uses foreshadowing, dramatic irony, and verbal irony to show Fortunato's misfortunes will eventually lead to his death. Irony and foreshadowing are literary devices used in literature. Foreshadowing is when an element of the story is used as a hint of things to occur, a hint of an event that will occur further on in the story. So if he says at the very beginning, I vowed revenge, then we can assume we're foreshadowing that this story is about revenge, right? And that Montezor is going to get revenge. And of course, he's like this, like, ha ha ha, wait till I tell you the story of how I got revenge, right? One of the different types of irony is verbal irony. It'll become apparent at the end of the story that Fortunato is not fortunate. It is foreshadowing when Montezor mentions in the first paragraph that he will seek revenge on Fortunato. All right, so okay, what in the Nell? Okay. Poe creates suspense here in the first paragraph of the story as he gets the reader engaged and wanting to know more about Montezor's plan to get revenge on his friend who caused him 1,000 injuries. And just the fact that he says he caused me 1,000 injuries is an example of hyperbole, gross exaggeration. So up here when I was saying, oh, we have another literary device, there it is down there, hyperbole. In the first paragraph, it's just rich. I've only done the first 2 sentences of the first paragraph, and it's just rich in, what do you call it? All different types of devices. I say Edgar Allan Poe is a master of the short story. You who so well know my nature, we don't know anything about this guy, right? So what's he saying? We don't know him at all. Will not suppose, however, I gave utterance to a threat. So I didn't walk up to Fortunato and say, man, I'm going to punch you right in the nose. We're going to fight this out. He goes, no, I acted like he was still my best friend. I'm going to trick him, So this guy is like, oh my God, he is awful. Can you imagine having a friend who's walking up, hugging you, acting all nice to you. Meanwhile, they're plotting to kill you. At length, I would be avenged. So sooner or later, I'm going to get my revenge. This was definitely settled, all right? But the very definiteness of it, with which would have involved a risk. So he's saying, when you go in to get revenge, the only way the revenge is really good is if you get away with the revenge. It's no good if you get arrested and end up in prison the rest of your life. So he says, and that's what this is all about, I must not only punish him, but I must punish him with impunity. That means that I punish him and nobody ever finds out I've done it. Like I don't have to pay any price for it. Impunity means that you do not have to pay any debt for what occurred. A wrong unredressed A wrong is unredressed when retribution overtakes its redresser. So, in other words, if I have to suffer a punishment after I've killed him, well, then what's the use of that? The punishment overtook me, the redresser. So, how is a wrong settled if I have to suffer for correcting the wrong? So unredressed means not made up for, not set right. Retribution means punishment for wrongdoing. Montessor intends to make Fortunato pay for the wrongs done to him, which Fortunato never set right. But in the process, he intends to escape retribution himself. So he's saying, I'm going to escape punishment. I'm going to get back at this guy, and nobody will ever know I got back at him except Fortunato. So the thing is another part, there's like different elements to getting revenge. One is that you don't get punished for it. And two, the person you punish has to know that you got your revenge. But in the process, he intends to escape retribution himself, believing he would be that would be a perversion of justice. Here, Poe plays on the idea that he would seek revenge and must dig two graves, a concept that frequently appears in revenge tragedies like the Cask resembles. Though they conventionally end with this, both the revenger and the victim's dead, Jean-Ray Save Montessor decided early in his plan that the only true revenge is the kind that you stay around afterwards to enjoy. So you should be able to enjoy your revenge and go, puh, puh, my mad plan worked, right? So here it is. It is equally unredressed when the avenger fails to make himself felt as such to him who has done him wrong. That means that when you get your revenge, the person who you're getting revenge on must know you got your revenge. So this is similar to the way where people are punished after being found guilty in the legal process. The punishment is supposed to be severe enough that the wrongdoer is deterred from committing crimes again. There should always be a permanent scar left on the criminal's head, reminding him that never again should he repeat the mistake. Montessor demoralizes this principle. He becomes a judge, a jury, the executioner are rolled in one. This is not a very good comment. I didn't make this comment. You see, I'm genius. People make annotations because the reason it's not a good comment, it doesn't go to the heart of what this one sentence is all about. And this one sentence is about how, as an avenger, somebody looking for vengeance, I should not have to pay for what happened, but also the person who I'm getting a revenge on, right, must make himself felt. So in other words, the person I'm getting my revenge on must know that I'm getting my revenge. So this comment does not go to the heart of what that one sentence is about, but I'll get past it. It must be understood that neither by word nor deed had I given Fortunato cause to doubt my goodwill. I continued, as was my wont, to smile in his face, and he would not perceive that my smile now was at the thought of his emulation. So Fortunato still views Montessor as his friend. So Fortunato, he'll meet Montessor. Montessor is going to go out in the street, and there's a big carnival going on in the street, a big party, like it's a street party. And it's a tradition in the area. And he's going to go into the street party, and he's going to be dressed up because it's like a carnival where you dress up. And Fortunato is going to be dressed up, and he's going to take Fortunato back to his house because he's going to say, I have a gorgeous wine, and you can't believe how delicious this wine is. You have to come to my house to taste it. And because he met him on the street and there was no appointment and nobody saw them together, no one will know that Fortunato went back to his house. So when Fortunato disappears, nobody will know how it happened. So it's all part of the mad plan of Montessor. And so he says, Fortunato must come and never doubt my goodwill. He must come with me and be happy to go with me, believing I'm still his friend. I continued, as was normal, to smile in his face. He did not perceive that my smile now was with the thought of his death. Fortunato still views Montessor as his friend, so it's going to be a lot easier for Montessor to manipulate him. Little does Fortunato know, Montessor is only smiling at him because he has figured out a way to kill him. Masks and what is hidden beneath them is key in the theme of Edgar Allan Poe's work. He also wrote The Mask of Another Red Death, another short story by Poe. A plague and those who seek to escape it is perhaps one greatest examples of using a mask. The story employs a play on words between mask a jubilant party, and mask, a way of disguising yourself, to show how even if people hide from death and amid pleasure or distracting entertainment, it will still come for them. So this play on the word mask and mask is brilliant also, because that also shows irony, right? I mean, what is the thing of you're in the middle of pleasure and the most fun you could possibly have at a big masquerade ball, and yet death is seeking you. Da 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 dun. Here, Montessor conceals his murderous intent beneath a veneer of joy. Death is always hiding, and masks we use to hide. It speaks to something in and itself that cannot be seen without it. Death strips away that final layer and offers an explanation of the human soul. So Montessor, as I said, is going to go out into the streets in the carnival, and he's going to look for his friend Fortunato, and he's going to hide beneath a veneer of joy. And so this is the thing about the play on words with mask and mask. Poe's relationship with death and Gothic aestheticism characterizes many of his works. Watch out for the interplay between many masks and the reality of death whenever you read a Poe story. And watch out for what masks might strip from you. Okay, so that is a really good annotation. It provides some excellent insights. But to repeat it, Edgar Allan Poe has Montessor say that neither by word nor deed must Fortunato doubt the goodwill. He's got to act like he's his best friend still. He's going to go out there, and Fortunato will not know that his intention is to kill Fortunato and extract his revenge. Okay, so I want to pause here for a minute because I want to show you what a crypt looks like. So here it is. I'm just going to show you the, if I can find it. Here it is. All right, this is good because this gives you a visual for the Tales to the Crypt. It gives you a visual for how people have beneath their houses crypts and. I just wanted to tell you that see the walls here in the short story when we're reading it, they keep saying that the night tray is like flickering, and what it is the walls are made of stones, and in the stones there's nitrate in it, and in the light of the torch which they takes down to find their way as they go down into the crypt. The nitrate flickers in the light, so it keeps referring to how the nitrate flickers in the light of the torch as they go down. I just want to show you what the walls of the crypt would look like. This is actually an excellent visual. This actually shows you what a crypt would look like.
From the crypt.
Grammarly does more than catch errors.
I really like the, oops, I got to turn that off. Where is it? There we go. How do I stop this? I got to stop it. There we go. Okay. So, sometimes I can't find where the buttons are to get the heck out of something. So I got to get out of the tail from the crypt for sure. Okay, there we go. I got out of it. Okay, hopefully that visual shows up because that is like a real good visual to show you what the. All right, so now we have to continue reading the actual text. I think this is it. Let me see if this is. Oh no, that might not be it. Here it is. Okay, so now we're going to continue reading the actual text. All right, so all we did was read the first paragraph. God forbid we're going to go into the second paragraph now that my Zoom lesson is like 25 minutes long. Okay, here we go.
Neither by word nor deed had I given Fortunato cause to doubt my goodwill. I continued, as was my wont, to smile in his face, and he did not perceive that my smile now was at the thought of his immolation. He had a weak point, this Fortunato. Although in other regards he was a man to be respected and even feared, he prided himself on his connoisseurship in wine. Few Italians have the true virtuoso spirit. For the most part, their enthusiasm is adopted to suit the time and opportunity, to practice imposture upon the British and Austrian millionaires. In painting and gemmery, Fortunato, like his countrymen, was a quack. But in the matter of old wines, he was sincere. In this respect, I did not differ from him materially. I was skillful in the Italian vintages myself, and bought largely whenever I could. It was about dusk one evening during the supreme madness of the carnival season that I encountered my friend. He accosted me with excessive warmth, for he had been drinking much. The man wore the costume of a jester. He had on a tight-fitting party-striped dress, and his head was surmounted by the conical cap and bells. I was so pleased to see him that I thought I should never have done wringing his hand.
Okay, so now we have to go back into the. All right, so yeah, we dare we like get through paragraph 3. Okay, so now we have to go back into the what do you call it? The Genius, where it's annotated, and here we are. So so as we left off here, and then here we're going down into we had a weak point. You know, one thing I did notice that's an error is somewhere up there it said Spain, because I think Amontillado is generally considered a Spanish wine, but the story itself takes place in Italy. Okay, and it's about 200 years ago in Italy. So he had a weak point, this Fortunato, right? And what it is he the weak point, right? You got to when you go to like get attack a victim, the best thing to know is like their weaknesses, right? Like suppose that you have a girlfriend, you know she's a shopaholic, so you go, oh honey, like let's go shopping, you know, let's go to Forever 21. I'll meet you outside the mall, right? So you lure them there, right? Well, here he knows that Fortunato's weakness is that he is a connoisseur of wines. A connoisseur means that you are a Ramosio, that you know the best of wines. Some of you might consider yourself a connoisseur of chocolates. Other you might consider yourself a connoisseur of video games. It's just that you know them all so well that you know the best, and he knows the best wine. So he's considered a man who is actually very good uh, at knowing a nice wine. So Fortunato thinks that he's a great Fortunato believes that he is a connoisseur of wines and is very good at knowing good wines, and he prides himself on it. And Montessor is going to use this to trap and lure Fortunato to his house. All right. So he had a weak point in this mantra. He regards himself on his connoisseurship in wine. Now, how is that a weakness? Well, it's a weakness because he knows that will help lure him to his house. It's going to help him set the trap. Few Italians have the true virtuoso spirit. For the most part, what are they saying about virtuoso? Virtuoso means one that is extremely skilled in a certain field. So virtuoso means that he's a very well versed in good wines. For the most part, their enthusiasm is adopted to suit the time and opportunity to practice or imposture upon the British and Italian millionaires. So this might be a dig against the British and Austrian, like Edgar Allan Poe liked to put little digs in. But anyway, the Italians may be have a real great sense of pride in their wines. They adopt this to suit the time and opportunity to practice in imposter British and Australian millionaires, which is a funny quote because it's saying that this reveals pride and a sense of dignity as they don't want to feel puny among the British and Austrians. This overwhelming pride eventually leads to Fortunato's death. So when you take pride in something, it can go like international pride, and they think they've got it over the. Like you hear French wines, the French always think they have the nicest wines, and then you hear of California wines. The California wine fields are like famous for production of excellent wine. So, and that is something too, where a bottle of wine can cost $2,000 if it's a like real primo bottle of wine. So, the whole thing of like being a connoisseur of wine can be in a very expensive uh, uh, hobby. So here in painting and gemmery, Fortunato, like his countryman, was a quack. So he's not good at. He doesn't know his artists. He doesn't know his gems like diamonds, but he does know his wine. Montessor is saying that Fortunato like to put on airs about knowing luxury goods, especially when the opportunity arises to pretend to be elite in front of rich foreigners. While he may actually know about wines, he pretends to know about art, jewelry, but does not. Montessor does really actually know about wines. But so Montessor is claiming that Fortunato is a fraud for pretending that he does like know also about gems and paintings, but he doesn't. He does know wines though. But in the matter of wines, he was sincere. So he does actually know his wines. In this respect, I did not differ from him materially. I was skillful in Italian vintages myself and brought largely whenever I could. So Montessor has big bucks. I mean, he actually does have a catacomb. That was what that Tales from the Crypt clip was about. He actually does have a catacomb beneath his house. So he has bucks, no doubt about it. And so he's saying, I have the money to purchase some of these wines that are, well known and famous. So they are connoisseurs. It's hilarious how Montessor is critiquing Fortunato's liking of wine. Montessor's statement that Fortunato does seem to prove true. Fortunato is sure, sincere, and obvious about trying to get his hands on some of the Amontillado. So anyway, what this is saying that he actually does have money and he can, even in carnival season, get his hands on the rare, well-known. This is just a bottle of wine, but he's going to get a cask of wine. A cask is a barrel of it, and he gets a barrel of wine during the carnival season. And there are some things like if you're trying to buy a PS5 right now, can't do it. Well, this is what Fortunato was going to say. My God, during carnival season, you got a cask of the Amontillado. Unheard of. How did you do this, right? And so that's how he's going to lure Fortunato to his house by saying, oh, I got some of that really nice wine that you like. Can you believe it? Right in the middle of carnival season, I got some of that wine. So it was about dusk one evening during the supreme madness of the carnival season that I encountered my friend. So he goes out just as it's getting dark, and they go into the streets. And this is not like, oh boy, look at this, by mistake I encountered somebody. This is I planned it, right? He's got this all planned. He knows that it's carnival season, it's confusion in the streets, people are dressed up. He's got it's dark out, so he knows all the ways that he's going to go, and he's going to lure Fortunato to his house without other people knowing that Fortunato has gone to his house. He accosted me with excessive warmth, so he had been drinking. So this accost means like, oh, my friend, and grabs him, right? So accost means you like stop him in his tracks. And Montessor deliberately planned this, and he also suspected that Fortunato would be out there and already have had a lot to drink, right? Because he's a wine connoisseur. That's what people do. So he's already drunk, right? And his what do you call it? His cognitive abilities are impaired because he's been drinking. So he sees his friend, oh, my friend, he hugging him, and thought the handshaking would never. Wringing my hand means a handshaking, wringing it as he's shaking my hand vigorously. And oh, my friend, right? And he's excessive because he's already had a lot to drink. Fortunato would eventually lead to his death. Ha 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 ha. So Montessori, see how he puts that little thing in? There's more foreshadowing about what's going to happen, right? Eventually his drinking will lead to his death. It's very common for people who are drunk to be extremely friendly, right? So he's saying this. He greeted me with excessive warmth. The man wore a motley, and this is what they mean by a motley. It is like he's dressed as a jester. So he's out in the carnival season, he's been drinking, and he's dressed as a jester. And the thing is about a jester is one who can is a fool, and so he's dressed as a fool. That's another name for a jester, right? And so he is out there in the carnival, and he's already had some drinks, and he's dressed up, right? And he is ironically dressed as a fool because he's going to be a fool when he gets led away with by Montessori from the party, with nobody else even realizing that Montessori has his dire plot going on. So he is a fool. All right. So he was tightly striped pants, and his head was surmounted by a conical cap and bells. So this is describing what his outfit looked like. In this sentence, the writer is using imagery. He's explaining that he's wearing tight pants, tightly fitting striped pants, and explaining that his head's with the cap and bells. So whatchamacallit, that's really a good point, that this is imagery, because it creates a picture in the reader's mind of exactly how Fortunato looked. So then I was so pleased to see him that I thought I should never stop wringing his hand. So Montefiore was very pleased that his plan's going as well, right? Because he goes out to find Fortunato. He finds Fortunato, and now he's got to trick Fortunato, the drunken Fortunato, to coming back to his house. So Fortunato is extremely intoxicated, and Fortunato is vulnerable. Ugh. Try to say that fast 10 times. Additionally, the language here is suggestive of Montessori's murderous desire. He thought he should never have done wringing his hand, right? So never have done is another example of hyperbole. The word the reader flashes to is neck, by the line finishes with hand. So where did that say? The word the reader immediately flashes on would tend to be neck. Wringing of his hand instead of his neck. That is a funny one. I like that. That's a cute observation. But it means that they were shaking hands vigorously. That's what wringing of the hand means. Okay, so now we're going to go back into the other. All right, so I said to him, my dear Fortunato, you're luckily met. How remarkably well you're looking. But I have received a pipe of what passes for Amontillado, and I have my doubts. So he goes, I got this huge cask of wine, and I have my doubts whether it's like a really nice Amontillado. I need an expert to come and tell me what it is, right? And so let's stop here for 1 sec, and I will let the what do you call it, professional reader read it to you. Okay, here we go.
I said to him, my dear Fortunato, you are luckily met. How remarkably well you are looking today. But I've received a pipe of what passes for Amontillado, and I have my doubts. How? Said he. Amontillado? A pipe? Impossible. And in the middle of carnival. I have my doubts, I replied, and I was silly enough to pay the full Amontillado price without consulting you in the matter. You are not to be found, and I was fearful of losing a bargain. Amontillado? I have my doubts. Amontillado? And I must satisfy them. Amontillado? As you are engaged, I am on my way to Lucchesi. If anyone has a critical turn, it is he. He will tell me, Lucchesi cannot tell Amontillado from sherry. And yet some fools will have it that his taste is a match for your own. Come, let us go. Whither? To your vaults. My friend, no. I will not impose upon your good nature. I perceive you have an engagement. Lucchesi, I have no engagement. Come. My friend, no, it is not the engagement, but the severe cold with which I perceive you are afflicted. The vaults are insufferably damp. They are encrusted with mold. Let us go, nevertheless. The cold is merely nothing. Amontillado, you have been imposed upon. And as for Lucchesi, he cannot distinguish sherry from Amontillado. Thus speaking, Fortunato possessed himself of my arm, putting on a mask of black silk and drawing a cloak closely about my person. I suffered him to hurry me to my palazzo. There were no attendants at home. They had absconded to make merry in honor of the time. I had told them that I should not return until the morning, and had given them explicit orders not to stir from the house. These orders were sufficient, I well knew, to ensure their immediate disappearance, one and all, as soon as my back was turned.
Now, see that I love the evil voice. So this is just too funny how evil this is. All right, so I got to do this again. Stop the share, hopefully. All right, and then go back into it again, and see, he accosts Fortunato on the road, says, oh, I got an Amontillado, but I have my doubts. And they says, how did you get an Amontillado? Impossible, during the middle of Carnival. And so, like I say, it's like a PS5. You can't get a hold of this thing, right, at this time, because everybody else has been buying it. Anyway, so he says, I have my doubts, I replied, and I'm silly enough to buy the whole thing without consulting you on the matter. So he says, I bought it, and I don't know whether this is a really good cask. And so I'm going to go find our other friend to ask him to come and test it and see if it's a good Amontillado. So he puts Fortunato in a position of importance, right? That you're the guy who I would normally have asked about it, whether or not this was a good deal. And so then Fortunato's Amontillado. You have an Amontillado. I can't believe you got an Amontillado. And he says, well, I see you are having fun here, so I'm going to go find Lucchesi and see if he can tell me whether or not it's a good one. It goes, oh, Lucchesi, you don't ask Lucchesi. He knows nothing about these wines. Me, I'm the man who knows about it. So Amontillado is type of sherry, but not all types of sherries are Amontillado. This is just telling you something about what kind of wine it is. All opposed characters who claim to be connoisseurs of wine come off poorly. Fortunato and the Cask Amontillado, like a bonbon and a Bellioso bumper, but is a sad travesty of a true expert. Montessor entices Fortunato into his cellar by challenging him to attempt what Poe describes as a very delicate and difficult test to distinguish Amontillado from a sherry. At this time, there may well have been a need for such a test. So this is getting into something that we don't really need to know about, this comment here. But basically, the premise is true, that what he's trying to do is make Fortunato jealous, because he says, I'll go ask Lucchesi and see if he knows whether it's good. Lucchesi, he knows nothing about this. I got to go with you. He says, you can't, he's baiting, he's baiting Fortunato to come to his house, right? And he's actually complimenting Fortunato. He's like, oh, I know you're really the best person to tell me as a connoisseur if this is good, but you're not available right now. And he goes, no, come, let us go with her to your vaults. We'll go to your vaults. We'll go to your wine cellar now, and we'll find out. And that film I showed you, that is like you would go down the stairs and the wine cellar would be there, and then just past that would be the crypts, which are the catacombs. So that film is actually good because it does give you a real sense for like the dark, cold stone basement where all this is held. And he wants him to come down there to look at where they put wines down there, because wines are supposed to be kept at a chilling temperature. And some people have wine cellars where there's wine that's been there for 70 years. So he's trying to get him to come down into the wine cellar with him when the catacombs are just past the wine cellar. My friend, no, I will not impose on your good nature. I perceive you're busy. I have no engagement. My friend, no, you're and you have a cold. I can hear your cough. I don't want you to be affected, right? So he's pretending he's caring about his health too. The vaults are insufferably damp and they're encrusted with nitrate, right? That's what I was talking about, with the nitrate, the flickering shiny part in the rock. Let us go, nevertheless. The cold is merely nothing. An Amontillado, this is wonderful, right? So shows how Fortunato wanted the wine so bad. This wine is very precious and rare. And Fortunato says, I must have a taste of this wine, right? Especially at this season to have such a wonderful wine. Thus speaking, Fortunato possessed himself of my arm. So that means that he grabs his arm and says, come, let us go, right? So Fortunato grabs Montesur's arm and pulls him toward the palazzo where the wine is in the vault. Uh, Montessor has done a great job of manipulating Fortunato, right? And so now Montessor's first goal to get him into the house and into the basements is good, and there's no suspicions roused, right? That he thinks he's his best friend. Uh, so he sees possessed himself contains some irony. It is Montesor who has Fortunato in his clutches and who will lock him in as a victim soon. And putting on a mask of black silk. So now the black mask contrasts with Fortunato's bright jester hat, further suggesting the darkness of Montesor's nature and intentions. And not only that, but as they're walking through the carnival, nobody will recognize Montesor and know who Fortunato left the carnival will. There'll be no witnesses. Montessor uses a disguise, a mask, and black coat, such as an executor, to ensure that he won't be identified as having been, with Fortunato. The mask as a question is most likely something similar to a domino mask, which is due to its simplicity and ease of wear, accomplished the bare minimum requirement of being masked. As a result, such masks became more than usually associated with conspiracy and intrigue during the carnival season. So he put on his mask and they leave, and that's his cloak. And I suffered him to hurry me to my palazzo, which is his home. There were no attendants at my house, and that is because they had a scam to make me merry. And this is irony. This is verbal irony. He says, I gave the servants direct orders. I said, I'm going to be out all night, and I know there's a big party going on in the street, but I want you to stay here. I won't be back till tomorrow. And he said, I knew as soon as I said I'm going to be gone all night, it would ensure the fact that they were gone, right? Montessor uses reverse psychology to make sure there will be no witnesses at his house. All these servants are out. He's a rich man with servants, but he has told them he will not be out home at all because he'll be partying all night, and told them not to leave. Obviously, every single servant left to join the carnival as soon as possible, right? So this is verbal irony, right? It was my order not to leave was sufficient to make sure that they would disappear. Very funny. All right. So now this next one, I'm just going to go into it real quick right here. I took the 2 scones or 2 flambeaux, and giving one to Fortunato, bowed him through several different rooms to the archway which led to the vaults. So the scones are the torches. So they have each got a light, and they're going to go downstairs into the vaults, and it's a staircase, just like the one I showed you in that film. I passed down a long winding staircase, requesting him to be cautious as he followed. He came at length to the foot of the descent and stood together on the damp ground of the catacombs of the Montesors. So see, here's a picture of it, right? There's the Fortunato dressed as a jester, and here's Montesor. Montesor takes torches from their wall mounts and leads Fortunato down into the vaults. Montesor's obscure origins make the catacombs of the Montesors detail unsettling. So basically, his ancestors are buried down below in the house, and also it's where the wine is buried. Okay, the gait of my friend was unsteady, and the bells on his cap jingled as he strode. Now this is very funny because here he is plotting the murder of the guy, and the guy's wearing a clown outfit, and he's got little bells that are ringing. The story takes place during the carnival season, and Fortunato is dressed as a jester, which is why the bells on his cap are ringing. His stride is unsteady because he's slightly drunk from the carnival party. Okay, so we're going to call it quits for the first recording. I'm going to do the story in 2 recordings. So here we go. We're going to stop for this first recording, and I shall make a second recording so we can finish the Cask of the Amontillado.